All right. Can someone explain to me why teams won't lay down a bunt?
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan, but please, by all means, call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here as a host on the Locked On Podcast Network. I do this show at least 5 times a week. Sometimes I do a bonus show on the weekend. And if you really like what I do here, why don't you also subscribe to Locked On A's? Because guess what? Your pal Sully is the host of Locked On A's. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the ending of the A's game and a frustration I have with sometimes baseball strategy. And someone may call me a dullard or a Luddite, but I don't think I'm wrong. I also think I might be a dullard and a Luddite. I'm not eliminating that as a possibility. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Before we get into my rant, I'm sure someone will say I'm Scott Horstmeyer and law guy Mike both got the trivia question correct, which was, what Red Sox pitcher has the most career appearances of any Red Sox pitcher in history, and until Jonathan Papelbon came around, was the all-time saves leader? And you two got it right. It was Bob Stanley. Bob Stanley, who was one Mookie Wilson swing and miss away from being one of the biggest heroes in the history of Boston sports, instead is remembered for being on the mound when the Red Sox lost the Game 6 of the 1986 World Series. Mookie Wilson fouled off, I think, 7,000 pitches with 2 strikes in that at bat. And if he was just a little bit earlier, a little bit later, Stanley would have had the swing and the miss, and the series would have been over. And no, if Buckner made the play, the Red Sox would not have won the World Series. Can you believe someone the other day brought up Buckner to me? Like, you must be still mad at Buckner. First of all, I was never mad at Buckner. And also, this notion that he blew the World Series is factually incorrect. The notion that if he made the play, they would have won the World Series is also factually incorrect. And the poor guy with a borderline Hall of Fame career had to take that to almost to his grave. And it was disgusting that if one person gave him crap, I have every right to hit that person in the face with a snow shovel. However, I will say this, and I talked about this in an episode around last Christmas. Bill Buckner gave us, I would say, the greatest television performance by a baseball player ever. If you've never seen the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode featuring Larry David and Bill Buckner walking around New York together, it's one of my favorite episodes of any TV show ever. And Bill Buckner, who is not an actor, clearly, but he doesn't really try to act, but he's very charming. He's insanely likable in the show, and even it's a little bit touching and moving at the end. And so if you've never seen, I know Curb Your Enthusiasm isn't for everybody. I happen to be a big fan of the show. And yes, I know some people say I remind them of Jeff Garlin. If you're going to say that, I'm going to beat you to the punch. But that being said, if you ever see the Bill Buckner episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, it's well worth it. All right. Enough of that. I was watching the A's game because I'm now evidently the voice of the Oakland A's. And it was a dramatic game. It was a very dramatic game that went on. The A's were losing for most of the game. And it looked like it was going to be they were playing Colorado, so it wasn't exactly a matchup of Titans. But the A's have had a couple of very good streaks recently, as have the Rockies, believe it or not. And the A's won game one of the series in a dramatic fashion. And with Gomber pitched outstanding for the Rockies. Pitched 8 innings, let up 1 run. But because you're not allowed to have a pitcher face a lineup the 4th time through, even though Gomber was pitching a terrific game and he had only thrown 90 pitches, the law says you cannot have a pitcher face a lineup the 4th time through. And so in came Beeks, and he, of course, immediately coughed up the lead and made it tied and go into extra innings because, the Bud Black knew that he would be arrested if Gomber faced anyone for a 4th time through the lineup. Because, as we know, the A's are one of the most fearsome offensive teams in all of baseball. So Lord knows you wouldn't be able to get him out. And besides, Gomber threw 90 pitches. I don't understand baseball sometimes. So it went into extras. Okay, fine. And then an interesting thing happened. They put the stupid Manfred man on second. If I were commissioner, that would be the first thing I get rid of. It's not baseball to start with a runner in scoring position in extra innings. I have said I don't want to see a regular season game go 19 innings either. I say tie after 12. Or my compromise is this. Baseball until the 12th inning, and then if you want to put the Manfred man on in the 13th, that's the lone compromise. But give us a few innings of actual baseball. But fine, if that's the way they're doing it, that's the way they're doing it. And the A's got out of the 10th inning, and the Rockies didn't score. All right, cool. So now the A's are starting the what inning would it have been? It was the 10th inning with Nevin at second base as the ghost runner. And up comes Brett Harris. Now, Brett Harris is a rookie who hit 2 home runs when I was at the game at Oakland a few weeks ago. But Harris has a 116 batting average and a 617 OPS. 617, very good if you want to call people in Boston, not very good if you want to have an OPS. So what do? The guy's clearly not a big time hitter. Fine. And at that point, you have the winning run on second base. Why is he not squaring and bunting him to third? Now, according to Fangraphs, that does increase your chance of going for 1 run by bunting a runner from second to third. Bunting him from first to second, not very smart. You've given up an out and you still have to get a hit. But if you're going to bunt a runner over from second to third, it increases, by whatever metric you want to use, your chance of getting that 1 run in. Now, I understand if you don't want to bunt at a point in the middle of the game because you're trying to build a big rally or something like that. Fine. But if you're playing for 1 GD run, 1 run will win the game. Why do you not bunt him over? Because, first of all, I have to make a confession. I know some people don't like to hear this. I love bunts. I think bunts are great. What I like about bunts is the possibility of chaos. My favorite points in baseball is when there's absolute chaos. An error is made, a ball rolls, ricochets, and runners are going all over the place. Wild pitches, bunts, base running mistakes, people running backwards, drop fly balls. I love chaos. And the chances of chaos are increased with a bunt because you hit it, people have to run out of position. This person goes this way, this person goes that way. They may pick up the ball wrong. They may bobble it. They may throw wild. They may not field it correctly. All these things can happen, and I love any possibility of chaos. Chances are what would happen is you bunt, the runner goes to third, the person's out at first. Of course, wild throw, like in Game 3 of the NLCS in 2014, wild throw, game over. All right? All these different things can happen. Now, according to Fangraphs, yes, it increases it, but But there have been, 15 to 30% of the time you're unsuccessful. 30% of the time are unsuccessful, and about 10% of the time, the runner you're trying to bunt over gets thrown out. Okay, fine. But that means 70% of the time it is successful. And you have a runner on third with only one out. And how can you win? Deep fly ball, you win. Weird ground ball, fumbled by the fielder, you win. Balk, you win. Pass ball, you win. Wild pitch, you win. As I said, sac fly, you win. Base hit, even if you have a clotting slow runner at third, you win. But what happened in the game? Is that what happened? Of course not. That makes too much sense. Okay? You had Harris, who is not hitting the ball at all. What did he do? He's called out on strikes. Didn't turn around once. Okay, so now you have to have someone swing away. You're not going to bunt with a runner on first and one out. Schulman grounds out, sent the runner to third. Toro, who's been great for the A's, but he flew out. And guess what happened? The A's, whose middle relief was spectacular in this game, got Austin Adams, struck out Beck, Goodman, and Cave. 1, 2, 3. So they had a second chance at this. Toro, who's fast at second. Blade comes out. Lay down a bunt, and you have the winning run in third with one out. Blade strikes out. Soderson strikes out. Langolier strike out. And then what happens the next inning? The Rockies take the lead, and the A's wind up losing the game. Final score 4-3. And the A's could have won the game, would have clinched the series, and would have gone for the sweep tomorrow afternoon, already with a series win. Instead, they didn't do it. Someone explain it to me. What am I missing? If I understand if you say you want to play for more than one run, you don't have to play for more than one run. As long as they have this stupid rule, why wouldn't you lay down a bunt? And if you say, well, people aren't great at it, then teach it, coach it, work on it. There's a lot of things I'm not great at my job, and I learned by doing it. If they say, hey, everyone learn how to lay down a bunt. Everyone, and I know it's easier said than done, but it's a strategy that gives you it's 70%, according to Fangraph, 70% of the times you're going to move the runner from second to third. You have a runner third with one out. And that runner is the winning run. That's the only run you're playing for. So someone explain this to me, because I do not understand it. I don't understand why this is not part of the plan. I don't understand why speed isn't the number one priority for so many teams, because you see going from second to third, stealing bases, getting defenses on their heels is a wonderful weapon that no one seems to want to do. But this, to me, is the definition of a no-brainer. And yet somehow it's not happening. So someone explain it to me like I'm a goldfish. Why isn't this happening? Hey, let's hear a little bit from our friends over at Game Time. Now, if you want to buy your tickets, if you want to buy tickets for whatever event you want to go to, now, I'm going to be up in the Bay Area for a giant chunk of this summer. I'm going to be going to some A's games. It's not the hardest ticket to get, but notice I said a giant chunk of this summer. I'm going to be checking out some Giants games too. But whether I'm going to the Coliseum or to Oracle Park, I want to make sure I'm getting the right tickets, the right price, and also the tickets that I want to be sitting in. That's where I'm going to use Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, and it makes getting tickets faster and easier, and the prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. They got killer last-minute deals. And all-in prices, views from the seat, the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Now, let me tell you something. They have zone deals, and I love the zone deals because you say, hey, I want to sit in this general area. I don't have a one seat that I love. What do I got in this area? And it gives you the zone deals. It gives you the best deals in that area that you want to sit in. You get to see the seat. You get a panoramic view right there on the app. And they get the lowest price guarantee. Game Time will give you credit for 110% of the difference if you can beat it somewhere else. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the lowest prices. Do you know what they are? I'll tell you what they are. They're guaranteed. We're going to move on over to our friends over at FanDuel. This is the time to be a sports fan because you got the NBA playoffs. The Mavericks are making life interesting right now, and the Celtics have thoughts of going to the finals. Then you got the Stanley Cup semi, basically the conference finals going on now. The Rangers fell to Florida. And we're going to see what happens when Dallas and Edmonton. You look at, all I know is someone who has a lot of oil is going to be happy because you got either Edmonton and Dallas are going to be going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Well, guess what? FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. And make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, do what it is? It is America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, where do you go to for your sports news? Where do you go to as the hub of your sports takes? Let me tell you, you should make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the Amazon Fire TV app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is indeed your team every day. Let's take a quick peek to see who has something to say. Let's see what's at the comment section. Hey, or Janice Richard, good to see you, buddy. You're on there. But I had thanks for listening to us once again. But we have where is it? Where did I just had it. I just had the freak. Oh, here, it's right here. This was from one of our listeners here. Brian Pearson commented, can we talk about the trade that just happened with the Baltimore Orioles and who they got? Thank you very much. Yeah, there was a trade that was made. And it's interesting. Sometimes moves like this are the ones that have some of the biggest impact. It's, blockbuster trades happen, but then there are moves that kind of fall under the wire, and you wonder, I wonder what's happening here. The trade was really, what happened was Mike Baumann of Baltimore and catcher Michael Perez were sent packing to Seattle. And the Orioles got Blake Hunt. Blake Hunt is a young catcher who was in the Mariners organization. He's hitting very well. He is playing in Tacoma right now. He has a 905 OPS, and he has decent power and has played well over the last few years, whether he's been in the Tampa Bay or the Padres organization. He was originally the Padres organization. He was part of the package that was sent to Tampa Bay to get Blake Snell. And now he was in the Rays organization and then found himself in the organization for the Mariners. He has never appeared in the major leagues, but has decent power and has been a good hitter. And, you can't go wrong getting a 25-year-old catcher in your system, especially for the Orioles who are looking for some depth. Mike Baumann just last year had a fine season as a middle reliever for the Baltimore Orioles. I don't really like to look at win-loss records, especially for relief pitchers, but the fact that his record was 10-1, that just visually looks nice. He's had a decent ERA. Decent strikeout to walk ratio. He's a nice middle reliever, and he's actually been effective this year for the Baltimore Orioles. It's just they were having a numbers game. they only had so many players that they could fit on their 40-man roster and on their 26-man major league roster. It's 26, right? I think so it was. And they had to make a move to, as some of their relief pitchers are starting to come off of the injured list, someone was the odd man out. Tyler Wells is on the injured list right now, and and a couple other players are going to be coming off the injured list, and they had to make a move. And so a few days ago, they put Baumann on the DFA to basically remove him from the list, where they could either have him pass through waivers or or be released or whatnot. And in the end, I think both teams got something out of it. Seattle, who has images of their first ever trip to the World Series dancing in their heads right now. They lost a game to the Yankees tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the star of that game. But, Seattle knows a part of the game is to have bullpen depth as well as a pitching staff depth. They know they got Gilbert, Castillo, Miller, and Kirby as their starting four. That's not bad at all. Brian Wu has pitched very well. So far, so good as a starting pitcher. He's had maybe one bump on the road. And then they know they have Munoz and Stanek and a couple other pitchers who are veteran. Why not add another major league pitcher to the bullpen and give them some depth? And if it costs them a good minor league catcher, then fine. That's the price you have to pay. And for the Orioles, it worked out because, well, they had to make a move, and getting a decent young catcher is better than releasing him. So this is the type of trade that you kind of have to earmark. You're not going to have any freaking clue who's going to get the better part of it until we see it unfold. Sometimes you see deals that are made, they're just under the radar, and then suddenly they come out with a tremendous fruition. I remember specifically down the stretch in 1996, the New York Yankees picked up David Weathers and Graham Lloyd, and they just were spare parts. Lloyd was an ineffective left-hander pitching for Milwaukee, and Weathers was having a rotten season with the Florida Marlins. And they just were picked up for, as a little bit of depth to be a living human being. And both of them pitched very well in the postseason and helped the Yankees win the World Series. So you don't know. You honestly don't know. We're going to have to see how this turns out. If you look up and see Baumann comes out and is a solid, a solid reliever for Seattle and gives them, gets them on some big wiggle room, they say, oh, this was a steal. If he's completely ineffective and then all of a sudden you see Blake Hunt comes up and he gets a big home run down the stretch for the Orioles, that worked out for there. It's an under the radar move, but the kind of thing that may or may not make a difference. So essentially, that's my long answer to say, I don't know. Let's wait and see. Hey, let's talk about Prize Picks. You know what Prize Picks is? Are you unaware of what Prize Picks is? Do you not follow what Prize Picks? Well, let me tell you something. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. Just pick more than or less than on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll on in. Who do we have on our Prize Picks? We could have I'm going to have, Adley Rutschman. He's going to be, I'm going to say more than 2 times on base. And Gunnar Henderson, I'm going to say less than 1 run in the upcoming game. Boom. If I'm right about that, then we are going to see the money come rolling in. Get in on the playoff action to win 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best player. The world's best players take to the game to bring the new level of fun in basketball's postseason. Doing them live. We're doing them live. Prize Picks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this basketball season. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDON for a first deposit match up to $100. I repeat that. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDON for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize picks, pick more, pick less. You know what? In the end, it's that easy. I've had more than one person ask me about my take, and I did bring this up a few, I think last week, but I'll do it again, about whether or not the Yankees are just going to pony up and re-sign Juan Soto. And every day they don't, Juan Soto just sees the money going up. Cha, and then I mentioned Ching. Did you see what he did today in a game where the Yankees jumped out to an early 5-0 lead? And then, because of a Cal Raleigh 3-run homer, they cut it to 5-3. But the Yankees piled on and they made it 7-3. Who was the big hero? Who do you think it was? It was Juan Soto. What did he do? Oh, not much. He just went 2 for 4 with 2 home runs, giving him 13 home runs for the year. Do you like batting averages? He's batting .313. Do you like OPS? He has OPS right now is .978. I mean, he is just having a phenomenal first season here. He is. He even has 4 stolen bases at this point. His on-base percentage right now is .409. His slugging is .569. He's played 51 games. He already has 111 total bases, 61 hits, 9 doubles, a triple, 13 home runs, and playing dynamic defense and coming up big when the Yankees need him. I'm going to make this point again. I made it before, and I made it again. There is no way. Now, if I'm wrong about this, I'll eat a big, big, big Shohei Ohtani bowl of crow. But I do not believe there is any way that Juan Soto is allowed to not hit the open market. I don't care how much he loves playing in Yankee Stadium. He's a 26-year-old who's the front runner of the MVP at roughly the 1/3 mark of the season, who's already been a World Series champion, has already come up big in the big games, has shown he can perform well under the spotlight. Who could use Juan Soto? Obviously, every team could use Juan Soto, but how many big market teams could use him? The Yankees obviously want to keep him. You don't think the Mets would want to swoop in? I've made this point before, but the Mets know they have an angry fan base. If they can steal Juan Soto and buy out his prime, the Red Sox, who, as we talked about with Gabby Herbert the other day, are putting together some nice pieces. They have, whether it's Duran or Devers or Rafael, and all these players who are, good, solid players, and they're building them together. And then you plop an MVP in the middle of that team because they could afford to put him in the outfield somewhere. The Dodgers have a spot in left field waiting for him. Giants fans are willing to burn down Oracle Park if they don't someday sign a big deal. And they tried to sign Aaron Judge. They tried to sign Shohei Ohtani. They tried to sign Yamamoto. They tried to sign Correa. And what does the team have? Decent pitching, but they desperately need that big bat in the middle of the lineup. And they have the money to do it. The Cubs, of course, they have a spot for them. And they have a fan base that is just absolutely drooling to get back to the World Series. And inevitably, there'll be some crazy owner somewhere who say, I'm going to finally push all my chips in. Now, he very well may re-sign with the Yankees. I've made this point before, and I'm going to keep driving it home. Boris got embarrassed this last offseason when some of his key free agents did not get the massive contracts that he was promising them. And a lot of people were saying, oh, he's lost his step. You think he's going to allow an MVP who's under 27 years old, where a team could sign the rest of his prime? I mean, he's going to have at least 4 or 5 more elite seasons. So if you sign for 10, you're basically only risking the final 5. And to get every big market teams bidding against each other, you think he's going to avoid that and avoid the chance to have this big showdown with his name in the middle of it? Yeah, I'm sure Soto must love playing for the Yankees. I bet it's great for him, especially because he burst right into it and didn't get any boos from the fans because right from the beginning he was great. But he will be happy wherever he plays. Do you know why? He will be swimming in a Scrooge McDuck pool filled with money. Money doesn't buy happiness. It just buys everything else that you can feel happy about. And I'm sure he'll be fine wherever he plays. And it very well could be the Yankees. But there's no way he's going to avoid free agency. There's no way. This is going to be Bryce Harper 2.0. It's not going to be quite Shohei Ohtani. But I think Bryce Harper is a good comp because he too was in his mid-20s. He too was a former MVP who came up big in many big games. The big exception is Soto's already been a champion. And he contributed big time to that championship. So he doesn't even have that on his bucket list right now. Of course he's going to hit free agency. It'd be insane for him not to. I made that point before, but I keep driving it home. The more people ask me, don't you think the Yankees will open up the wallet? Who have they been doing that to recently? Some other teams have. It might be the Yankees, but just wait. All right, let's throw the trivia question at you. And this caught me by surprise. What pitcher is the only pitcher in the history of the New York Mets to win his 300th game in a Mets uniform? There have been several players who have been Mets who have won 300 games in the majors, but only one got to that 300th win wearing the Mets uniform. Put your answer down here on YouTube. All right, Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called now on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Telling you to just lay down the bunt. Trust me. Can we practice it? And Juan Soto, can you loan me $1 or $2? This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.